like you said, shocked the world, shocked me beyond belief.
I think Slim is the perfect opponent.
Let's go!
It's actually crazy. There's over 1 billion impressions on all that fight. It's shit. You guys know. Nobody got injured to fight Le'Veon. Somebody got scared and didn't want to fight Le'Veon.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Misfits News. I'm your host, Ben the Bane Davis, along with my co-host, BL. We've got some insane updates in the world of crossover and traditional boxing. But before we get into all of it, BL, I have to ask, how are you?
I'm doing very well. What a week of boxing, Ben. How are you doing, my man?
Oh, fantastic. I'm here in Detroit, Michigan, calling some pro bowling. But the thing I got to talk about is pro boxing. Ryan Garcia, what a guy.
The dedication you put in there, no matter where you are, you're always turning up for Misfits News, and the fans need to know we're always putting it on. I came back from face-offs, I'm here. Ben is traveling in the world, we're here, and we're always here working for you lot. However, before we get into all of that juicy stuff, let's talk about what a week we've had of boxing. We witnessed one of the biggest shocks of the decade. But before we delve into that, let me give you a rundown of the episode. So first on the agenda, Ryan Garcia has quite literally shocked the boxing world. KSI has talked about a boxing return. And finally on the agenda, we're hearing from one of the Misfits 15 co-main event stars.
Now, Ryan Garcia, the build-up to this one has been incredibly unique. So many people were asking for the fight to be pulled outright, saying he wasn't fit, mentally sound, or well in body. But, man, he turned up on Fight Night, BL, and just, like you said, shocked the world, shocked me beyond belief.
I mean, both you and myself, I think, we wrote him off of this fight. We said the fight shouldn't go on, and I now ask the question. I actually put it up on Twitter. Was this all along just a bit of promotion?
No, I think that he's still mentally unwell. Like, I do believe that there's something wrong with Ryan Garcia, but you know, to contextualize this, they fought 6 different times as amateurs. I recognize that was a long time ago, but when you're 3-3 with someone, I feel like there is some built-in familiarity. And Ryan Garcia is a world-class fighter. He is a world-class boxer. That speed, that power, the defensive and offensive awareness that he has, whether he's going through a bit of a mental breakdown or not, that guy could fight.
Absolutely. Now, a lot of people were asking, is he a crossover boxer? Is he good enough? And I just want to stress, no, he is not. He is an elite level fighter, and he proved that again. You know, as I say, I was writing him off, but seeing that performance against Devin Haney, which people have to remember, was the high favorite, and he is an absolutely fantastic fighter, no matter the result of the other day. You got to say, Ryan Garcia is up with one of the best right now.
Absolutely, and I think the weight miss is something that we have to mention and emphasize, that he didn't cut those extra 3 pounds. He didn't put his body through the difficulties of those final pushes of a weight cut. So who knows, in a rematch, maybe that could play into it. Maybe Devin Haney's incredibly high fight IQ is going to play into a rematch, right? We know that he can make different changes and adjust and adapt. But either way, I think we got to see this again before the year is done, BL.
Absolutely. Now, I want to touch on something there. You said about the weight. Obviously, I want to compare against what he looked like then against what he looked against Gervonta Davis. With Gervonta Davis, he looked depleted. He had nothing. He looked like skin and bones. Whereas this fight, he looked much better, a lot healthier, and that clearly showed in the fight.
It's what happens when you don't cut weight, you know? And I'm sure he cut a certain amount, but yeah, like, he didn't push himself. I would say, and the rehydration clauses that he had to deal with in the Tank Davis fight, he didn't have to deal with here. So I don't know. I mean, the big narrative that I just think is important to pull out of this is Ryan Garcia is making these fights happen. He is doing what needs to be done and getting in there and competing with the best talents in the world. Now, again, we can talk about the mental breakdown. We can talk about the weight miss and everything like that. But these fights are happening while a lot of other fights aren't.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree with you more. However, what's next for Ryan Garcia? You may be asking. Well, he called out one of my favorite boxers to date right now, Jaron Ennis, a similar fighter to that of Roy Jones Jr., an extremely dangerous fight as well, may I stress, and he signed under Eddie Hamm. What do you make of that fight, Ben?
I think that's a fantastic one. Boots, very world-class fighter, and I wouldn't mind seeing him throw down, but I really would be more interested in a Devin Haney rematch where both guys come in at the weight, belts are officially on the line, and Ryan Garcia has the chance to, you know, really steal the titles and solidify himself, because the weight miss is just it's a caveat here, man. It really is. It's a big asterisk for me, and I can't fully say, you know, that this was a flawless performance because of that. It was a beatdown. I mean, he schooled him in the ring, but you didn't cut the weight. You signed a contract and you neglected that. I just don't really like seeing that. So I'd say a rematch before he faces off with Ennis down the line.
Well, we are on Misfits, and I will say all Garcia has done since winning that fight is call out Prime and KSI and Logan Paul. What do you make of that, Ben?
Hey, you know what? There is a Prime curse that seems to be developing. Israel Adesanya, Alexander Volkanovski, and now, of course, Devin Haney. So who knows? I mean, we got to check what we're putting in these things, man. Maybe there is.
Shakur Stevenson possibly going against Ryan Garcia. If Shakur loses as well, we need to check this drink.
Listen, all I'm saying is the next fight I have, I probably will not be wearing a Prime chain.
Well, unless if the money was right, of course.
Oh, very true, very true.
Well, shifting things back to the Misfits world, KSI has stated that he's nearly finished on his break and he might be returning to the Misfits Boxing arena. What do you make of that, Ben?
It's about time. The Nightmare stepping back into the ring. I just think it's best for the scene. Whenever KSI is competing, all of the boats are rising. Now, the question is going to be the opponent. I have been one of the bigger advocates for Slim the Hitman to get that KSI fight, but who knows? It just doesn't seem like that's going to be the one that materializes. Is it Wayne Rooney, BL? Who might this opponent be?
I'm going to agree with you. I think Slim is the perfect opponent
Let's
going forward.
go! Let's go!
For me, if it was done earlier and Masvidal wasn't having this fight, I think Slim could be a really good fight leading up. And then after Masvidal's had his fight with Nate Diaz, it sets up that Masvidal fight to lead on from that. It really depends for me how many fights KSI wants to have. Because obviously the name we all want to see is Jake Paul, but that's not happening anytime soon. He's got the Mike Tyson fight, and then he wants to fight Nate Diaz or Masvidal in MMA. So it looks like the roots are not quite aligning right now.
I don't think that we should put much stock in Jake Paul's mixed martial arts, words and opinions and thoughts. Like, I don't believe, I'm sorry, JP, I don't believe that he's going to be fighting in MMA anytime soon, if ever. I know that he signed a deal with PFL. Francis Ngannou also signed a deal with PFL. Guess what he hasn't done? Stepped into the smart cage. So I don't think that Paul and KSI is too far down the line. I would say that it could happen before the end of the year, maybe, right? That would be my opinion.
I can see it.
But yes, to get back to it, KSI versus Slim, I think that's the perfect fight. And then you stick Masvidal, you stick Nate Diaz, you stick Paul, you stick whoever KSI wants next front row, and boom, then you get every option. All bets are covered. And hey, if Slim pulls it off, Slim pulls it off. He earns the right to step in there and test his skills. And if KSI gets another big highlight reel KO, hey, everything's back on track. And boom, we're off to the races.
Well, someone had a lot of words to say about KSI over the weekend. Dean the Great, he had some interesting words to say on the broadcast. Yeah, it was it's a shame to see.
Yeah, we like Dean the Great. Dean's a great dude. And we recognize obviously some issues in the past. Everything's been settled, but that is just not the place to levy criticism. That is not the place to take those kinds of shots. When you're in the broadcast booth, when you're on air, in that commentary team, you should try and be a little professional. That would be my thing that I would extend to him. If he was in the ring, if he was at a media scrum or something like that, if Fred Beck was interviewing him and he wanted to let loose, that's completely fine. But when you're on air, on DAZN, sitting next to, actual broadcasters, maybe just hold off on those things.
Well, that's something I want to highlight is you don't have to like KSI's boxing style necessarily. You don't need to be on Misfits and everything has to be KSI is the best. That's something I want to highlight. However, as you said, and you articulated very well there, doing it on a broadcast like that, on the biggest stages, is not the way to do it. And it just shines off badly. It's like, are they treating you badly? Are you going to be returned to Misfits? And again, it throws a lot of questions and tension to that relationship that's already strained with Mams. And it's just, again, we're trying to make the situation calm down, and it seems to always fizzle back up.
And that's the thing is, I don't know when that video was, when Dean said those things. Again, I'm not sure if it was a recent clip. I'm not sure if it was from several years ago. But, if he wanted to say, hey, there's a reason why that karate stance isn't seen at the higher levels in pro boxing, right? He could say it's an inefficient style. Those are fair criticisms, and I don't think that anyone would have a problem with it. But it's sort of it's how Dean does it, baby. It's just how Dean does it. Where that's all right. Well, we could have phrased things a little bit better, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think at some point it takes two to tango. And if you want a relationship to get better, you got to put it in work. You can't just expect it to magically form. And by saying things and doing things like that, it like you said, just causes more unnecessary stress.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcoming in one of the challengers in the cruiserweight tournament. It is the undefeated Misfits boxer and Canadian adventurer, Tristan Hamm. Tristan, how have you been, sir?
Doing great, doing great. I think it's kind of funny you said undefeated. do we get to get some praise for that title?
Hey, we'll give you. It's 1-0. Technically, it is absolutely undefeated. And let's get into that debut, man. Lightning quick knockout of not Logan Paul. It went about as you expected it to go. I would say.
Oh, for sure, for sure. I kind of antagonized him, as you remember, in the buildup of the fight. You know, he was trying to buddy, but I made it clear that we weren't friends until after the fight's done. But I told him, I said, you know, I want you to come out swinging, and he quite literally did. So I wasn't really expecting that, to be honest. I thought he would be on his back foot a lot more, and he came out and he just started swinging. And I'm like, does this mean he has gas, or does this mean like he's gonna die out in 10 seconds? And he started dying out. I was like, oh, we're good, we're chilling. Once I shook it off, so no, it was good. It was a good debut, and it was awesome. I loved that how many people showed up. There's thousands of people there, and that was pretty fire.
Yeah.
And yeah, I love the whole experience. It was badass. It was a good little warm up to shake off the rust, and now it's time to rip the band-aid off and go serious here.
I love it. And you're taking a massive step up. But to keep it on that first fight, what was the reception like in the days following? Because I know out of everybody on the card, your clip had quite some juice on it in that following week.
Yeah, it's actually crazy. There's over 1 billion impressions on all that fight.
Wow.
So it's insane. Yeah, it's super insane. And a lot of people thought it was Logan Paul. And that's really the only reason that I decided to take the fight, was because it quite literally looked like Logan Paul. So now I'm like, wait, that wasn't Logan?
Yeah.
But it was good. Leading up to the fight, I mean, it was good. It was cool. It was a cool experience, you know.
Now, you talked about ripping off the Band-Aid. Obviously, now you're going into a dangerous fight. You're going into deep waters with Le'Veon Bell. Talk to me about that fight coming up.
Well, I don't think it's going to go into deep waters. But I think that the perspective of it is definitely deep water. I think I'm going to get a knockout. I'm not going to say my prediction yet, but I definitely think that there is a knockout opportunity there. Because I just don't think he's fought anybody that has serious power. Like JMX is definitely a solid dude. He's super big, but you know, you can clearly see that JMX is a little bit more inexperienced. But Uriah Hall, he fought Uriah Hall, went the distance with him. But Uriah is an MMA guy. That was his pro debut. So clearly he's tough. But and he's definitely, I believe, the toughest on the Misfits roster, and he has the most experience, and he's the most athletic. And dude, the guy's a literal beast. So I said to BJ, I said, because we knew he was on the roster. We knew that it could be a year before I could fight him if I'm going to go for the belt. But, you know, I guess there was an injury or something. It's all bullshit. You guys know. Nobody got injured to fight Le'Veon. Somebody got scared and didn't want to fight Le'Veon. And so the opportunity opened, and I'm like, listen, like, BJ, if you think that I could do this, I'm down to do it. Like, you know, I don't know where I'm at. You know where I'm at. So if you think that I can win, then I want the fight. Like, there's no question about it. And he's like, well, yeah, that's what I needed to hear, to know that you could win. And that was it. You know, he needed to hear that I had it in here. And that was all he needed to hear, to know that we can make this happen. So I have it in here. I want to rip the Band-Aid off. I know he's the toughest guy in the division. And if I can beat him, I know I can wipe out the entire roster. And from there, I know I can, you know, call it some pretty big names and bring some more energy to Misfits, which at the end of the day is the goal. So I'm stoked. If I can't make it by him, I shouldn't be in this sport. That's the mentality I have. So I'm all in or nothing. You know what I mean?
I love the mentality. What is the message to people, the fans that would say, okay, you have one win over a guy and not Logan Paul, who maybe isn't of the cream of the crop, right? And now you're taking on Le'Veon Bell, the doubters, the naysayers. What's the message to those people that don't think you can get it done?
The message to those people is a lot of the people that have those doubts, you know me from being an adventurer, but they don't know like the actual hardness of my true self, like who I am and how I grew up. Like, I grew up, you know, on the pipelines at 16 years old, building oil pipelines in northern Canada. All my boys and my and the guys I scrapped with and everything were the toughest guys on the planet. So I have a grit that has never been experienced in the Misfits field. Even these guys that even professional fighters don't have the grit that I have. Most of them, yeah, a lot of guys have been fighting their entire lives since they were a kid, and they may have gotten beat as a kid and shit like that. But they never really got tested at 16 and 17 by full-grown men, you know, in minus 50-degree weather. So that's definitely what I bring, and I've adapted that through my whole life with everything I do. Adventures, rock climbing, ice climbing. I've always jumped in like 0 to 100. I've never really done anything warmed up. And at times it's left me to be a little bit sloppy, but I get the job done. And that's the confidence that I bring. Some may say it's ignorant, but it's not ignorant because I'm relying on my team, who is quite literally the best team you could ask in the sport. So if my team believes I can win, I know in here I can win. That's all we need to win. So that's what I say to the people that are underestimating my abilities, because they 100% have the right to believe that. I have not shown anything. I have 30 seconds of a clip online where you see me slipping and weaving through a guy just flurrying me, and then I throw 2 shots and he gets knocked out. So how do you see anything from that? You really can't. And so they have every right to doubt it. But and they're doing they're also doing the kind of, you know, the arithmetic of the whole deal, right? Like they're looking at Le'Veon's record and who he's fought against in his athletic career, and then there's really nothing to show for mine other than adventure stuff that's completely unrelated. And that adventure stuff is 100% like, it's so toned back from what I actually do in my life, because that's the stuff I actually do in my life is either too political to show, or it's not entertaining. Like, you have to bring an entertaining level for social media and likes and views, right? So it doesn't really make sense for me to make videos about me like living in northern Canada 30 days, like in extreme conditions. It doesn't get as many likes as me just sipping on a can of Prime and jumping off of a cliff. You know what I mean? Like, and anybody can sip Prime and jump off a cliff. You know,
well, I don't
so
know if anybody can, but you definitely
right.
can.
Yeah, it depends on how high
Sure,
the
with
cliff
me, they
is. Yeah,
can.
you know. Yeah, there you go. I am curious. I want to dig into the background of Le'Veon a bit. Did you follow
Yes.
his American football career? Were you a fan of him at all?
I was not a fan of him, but I'm very familiar with his plays and you know what made him who he was with the Steelers, 100%. And I definitely think he transitions that to boxing a little bit too, and I'm sure that's what his game plan is going to be on here. You know, kind of used to hang back and until people to figure that out. You know, and it's the same thing with boxing. Like, I'm sure he's gonna try to gas me out and hang back, but he doesn't realize that I run ultra marathons. Like, I have better cardio and conditioning than he does. There's no question about that. So if somebody wants to, like, you know, question that, it's like he shouldn't play that game plan. It's not gonna be smart, you know.
And that's, I think, the biggest edge, and maybe you'd agree with me, is the unknown that you bring, because not Logan Paul, I don't think, was a good representative of your full skill set and your full tool belt. Do you think that, hey, I've got so many different weapons that they're going to be on full display, they're going to surprise Le'Veon?
I think it would be very ignorant for me to say yes, because I am just a beginner. You know what I mean? Like, I really am just a beginner. I just started. I've been boxing for 6 months, bro. Like literally, I swear to God. But I've had a fight in me my whole life, and I have places I can dig super deep that give me that resilience, and I know I have a chin. So that's really my edge that he needs to be worried about. Is that it's at the end of the day, it's a fight's a fight. Not Logan Paul had just as much of a chance to knock me out as I had to knock him out. You know what I mean? He had 25 MMA fights. I had no MMA fights. So that doesn't even make sense. People, oh, well, he had, you know, he sucked. Bro was bigger than me, cut weight to fight me, and then he came up in weight right before the fight. Same thing with Le'Veon. Like, he's much bigger than me, you know. I sit naturally like 180, you know. I'm 6 foot, I'm 180 pounds. He's 220 walking around, you know what I mean? Like, that's a massive difference. But all it takes is one shot, you know. So I don't think I'm gonna really have enough time to be able to show like a bunch of skills, but I know I'm tough, and that's what he has to worry about. And I know it just takes one shot to land, and that's all it's going to take. But I have the gas, so I can wait it out as long as I want for that shot. That's really the game plan.
What a pleasure to have Tristan Hamm on the co-main event, and what an exciting card it is to be right now. However, I will tell you something. He seems really confident on his second fight on Misfits, going against one of the most dangerous fighters in the division.
It's crazy. It is crazy, the self-belief and just assurance that Tristan Hamm has of himself. You know, I have been vocal about this in previous episodes. Le'Veon Bell is a massive step up from not Logan Paul. And we're going to see just how good Tristan Hamm is, right? It could be a unreal performance where we go, man, this kid is really special. And he just TKO'd Le'Veon Bell. What do we do with this guy? He's the next big thing. Or we go, man, he wasn't ready for that, kind of what we maybe expected, but who knows? I mean, we're all going to have to find out at Misfits 15. Another fantastic episode. Ryan Garcia shocks the world with a victory over Devin Haney. KSI, he is coming back. That is for sure. And we got to hear from the Canadian adventurer himself, Tristan Hamm. Make sure you tune in every Tuesday and Thursday. I've been Ben the Bane Davis for BL. Thank you. Like, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.